All right, I think we are live. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hatoraid Cowboy here. I have a special guest, Ike, EasyHT Tech, and it should be a good one. And just a couple reminders, let's have fun and be kind to one another. Let's keep it G-rated. All right, so I actually don't know. I can't tell. I don't have my, I can't see. Let me log into this to see how many, if there's anybody online yet. Let's see here. Let me type this in the chat. So what's been up, man?
It's a good Friday, spent the entire day working, so time to relax and, spend some time on the show with you. Thank you very much for having me on here.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yep.
So
I really appreciate it.
What do you do for work again?
Cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity. Okay, so nobody's hacking your system then, huh?
That's usually the goal, right? I
Yeah.
don't want to get too confident about that one, but yes, that's usually the goal.
Yeah. But that's cool that you work from home, so it's remote, huh?
Yes, I work, I think for the last 5-6 years, I've worked remotely. I don't think I remember what it feels like going into the office.
So how long you said?
About getting 6 years now.
6 years. Oh, wow. So you were doing that before COVID then?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was doing
That's
that
nice.
way before COVID. So
yeah, we in I want to say February, I believe it was February of 2020, our job. So it was like right when COVID was starting to blow up and hadn't gotten like crazy yet, but I think a couple people in our office had got COVID and they were like, all right, we're going to start working from home. And at least our department, we all have laptops. So we started working from home and we did that for 2 years until March of last year. So I worked from home completely. And then now last year we went into the office 3 days a week. And then starting this year, we go into the office 2 days a week. So it makes a big difference, man. I love it.
yes, it does, and I think, productivity turns out to be just about the same for most roles, depending on if you're in the office or at home. So,
Yeah.
but it's good to have the option of being able to go 2 or 3 times a week, and versus spending, all day out there. So
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Well, cool, man. So I think the first topic I was going to talk about was basically like speaker setup, speaker brand. I know you got some nice speakers in your theater. So yeah, I just upgraded my front, left, and right channels from ARENDAL. So I had the 1961s for my left and right, and then I had the 1723 Center S, and then I just got in the 1723 monitors. And if you guys haven't watched that video, check it out. But those things are huge, man. like I said in the video, I've seen them on YouTube, I've seen them online and stuff. But like until even the box, like opening up the box, they still don't look that big. But once you take them out, you're like, wow, these are pretty large. Those are definitely the biggest. And I guess they're not bookshelf speakers, but they're monitors. So
yeah,
bigger than a bookshelf. But yeah, man, I haven't even broken them in yet, but I'm thoroughly loving them. And I like immediately I noticed like way more detail, more SPL. Obviously the drivers are bigger, so they're going to play louder, but like just so much more detail, so much more dynamic range. And also at the same time, which I'll talk about, I got the EMOTIVA Basics A5 amplifier, and like I'm like, man, I don't remember everything sounding this detailed before. So it's it's a fun time right now.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say when I started building my home theater, the 1723s were the speakers I was actually going to get.
Oh,
I had
okay.
them in my cart, but I think then with the whole COVID thing, there was like back order and different things, and I had this concern of having very young kids,
Hmm.
as of then, they're 2 years older now, but they were like 5, 3, and, had one on the way. So I was very skeptical about having this home theater with all these speakers. And I was concerned that one of them was going to ruin it. So I kind of made the difficult decision to go with in walls, even though I never really was a fan of in-wall speakers.
Hmm.
Never tried any out, so yeah, the Orioles are really good. I
Yeah.
think at some point in the future, I would probably end up with those speakers.
Have you had a chance to hear him in person or
Um, no, I
no?
have not, but I do know someone who actually has, and not a YouTube person, but somebody who's a good friend of mine that actually has them in his home, and I'm actually planning to go.
Oh, cool. Is that in
Yeah,
Dallas?
yeah, in Dallas. It has
Cool.
a complete. I think it's a 714.
Okay. Yeah. So I know when I moved into this house, I had some at my parents too, but when I moved into this house, I had everything pre-wired, and I knew that I wasn't going to have a lot of space on the sides. So I got in walls for that. And then of course, I had in ceilings, and now I have some bookshelf speakers that I'm using as on wall up front. But yeah, I've used in walls before, and I think having had both in walls and towers, I think that they're okay. And I mean, I just have like some cheap Pope in wall speakers. They're not anything fancy, and they sound good. They sound really, and actually, they sound even better now with those the Emotiva amp. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if I had my choice, I would have bookshelf or monitors on the side. I just didn't want to. I didn't want to have like this big thing off on the wall and take up, probably both of them together would take up probably like a foot or so. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that at some point maybe Arendal will come out with some in walls. I know that they said they've talked about it internally. I don't know if it's going to happen, but yeah, I mean, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. And is it OSD?
No, I have the Monolith THX.
Monolith. That's right. Okay.
Yeah, the 365 in walls. Yeah, and I mean, I've like I said, I've never been a fan of in-wall speakers,
Hmm.
and I was very skeptical. So I think it was more of a family acceptance factor that was the only reason. But I've come to love the clean nature of just not
That is nice.
seeing your speakers and just having it behind the screen, and also I think I ended up making the right choice with the monoliths. They're not very expensive. They're not as expensive as some of the other, focals and all the other expensive in walls. But
Hmm.
I think the fact that one, they're well built. I think the guy who built who's behind the monolith THX is also the guy who's behind the Pearl Listens and the ARENDALs. I think it's the
Okay.
same brain. I can't remember the name, but I know
Yeah,
Joe,
I'm drawing
told
his
me that.
break too.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so it's not as expensive as the other market competitors, but there's the advantage of having all my 7 bed layer speakers the same brand,
That's nice.
and also having the room well treated. I think that really helps out. So I don't necessarily feel like I'm missing out on anything. They're really good speakers. And yes, I'm driving them with OSD
Okay,
amplifiers.
yeah, I knew you had OSD something.
Yeah, I have the 5 channel and a pair of the 3 channels. So,
Okay. Yeah, Monolith, I haven't personally heard them, but I've heard a bunch of good things. I know Joe and Tell has them on his channel a lot. And I know like Monolith, like I think I think the first stuff they started coming out with was amplifiers. and then they started doing speakers. I could have that wrong, but everyone's always raved about them, and I know their amps are legit. I know that their subwoofers are really good.
Yeah.
But yeah, having and you've got the exact same speaker all the way around.
All the
Yeah,
same brand. Yeah, the
that's
same
nice, man.
model. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the one thing I was like, you know what? I'm probably gonna have my in walls and in ceilings for a while just because they're in there, and like I don't really have any other choice other than, I mean, I can mount some other speakers at least up front that I have now.
Yeah.
But I was like, at least if I can get the floor, like my LCR and then the back surrounds, if I can have those at least be the same speaker, company. Because before I had like Polk and, well, before I had all Polks and they were just super, super cheap. I had those for like 10 years. But then I had Polk and then I had like some clips in the back and I was like, man, I just want everything to be the same. And so when I started looking to ARENDAL, I was like, okay, well, the 1961s are just basically a smaller speaker. The cabinet has a little less dampening and stuff, but I was like, I can get those, test those out and see if I like them. I'll keep them. Actually, I just purchased those a couple of weeks ago. And then I got the 1723, which already had the center. So I was like, at least if I can get those, all my floor speakers the same, like I'll be happy. And then, in the future, if I need to, then I can swap out, or I don't know. I'm thinking if ARENDAL ever comes out with like maybe some in walls or in ceilings, then maybe, but it's still kind of like, well, I already have 4 holes cut in the ceiling. Do I really want to cut another hole? Because I mean, those will probably just stay in there. I assume they're not going to be the same size, but I mean, right now I don't really notice like a timbre matching problem or anything like that. So
Yeah.
it's fine. But yeah, having the same speaker all the way across, that's nice. Now, are they all at the same height all the way across?
Yes, I actually, yeah, I did my very best to get them. I think the only one I have that is probably, I think it's my back surround right. And that's because it's almost right next to the door into my office where I'm in right now. So there
Okay.
was some room design
Yeah.
stuff that I just couldn't get past. But yeah, I tried to get the measurements as much as, as close to what is expected. I used the Audio Advise tool software that they used, along with some other research and just talking to some of the other guys who are currently in the industry and, getting their ideas. So, I think, I did a good job of not just throwing speakers all over the place, and because obviously with in walls, once you put them in there, there's no moving them around,
Yep.
and except you just want to do some drywall work and all of that. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
I actually, man, so when I installed my left and right surrounds, the in walls, I didn't realize it, but I thought I had measured it right, but I missed the stud. So I've got the speaker and then right below that is the stud. I missed the stud by millimeters when I cut.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that I mean, it was so close. And
Yeah.
so obviously I measured correctly. I just barely missed it. So yeah, because once you cut that hole, I mean, you can patch it, but it's never going to be the same, So I was
Yeah,
like, man,
except you're willing to do some proper dry, yeah, to do some real drywall. And I mean, when I initially set it up, I cut into the actual wall, but I think about a month or 2 later, I ended up building a front stage,
okay,
and just so that front wall is packed with 5/8
yeah,
drywalls, a front stage that is just packed with insulation. So in front, it's pretty solid. And I had to do all of that because the home theater is upstairs.
okay,
So I was having a lot of sound just travel around on the front stage because of the way the house is designed. So I went with the idea of just building a baffle wall, packing it up with as much insulation as I could, and then having to reinstall the speakers. But it sounds really good. Sounds clean.
nice. Yeah, you've you've got a really clean setup, man. Your room looks super super clean. Like I wish my room looked like that. But yeah, if you guys haven't checked out his channel, go check that out. He's got a really beautiful home theater, and I believe yours was featured on Youth Man's channel, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So I thought about doing a false wall because I have that closet behind my screen, and eventually I want to bust out that wall. I need to see because there's kind of an angle in one corner, and I don't know if that's a load bearing wall. But even if I can do it, I thought about, which is another reason why I kind of went with the monitors. But the only thing is, I think there's only 2 feet behind the closet, and to do a baffle wall, you're gonna need at least a foot. So I'm like, that's
Yeah.
not really gonna benefit me to just gain a foot. So I'm probably just gonna keep the speakers outside of in front of the screen, and if I can move it back, then I'll just gain like a foot or two. I think I can move it back at least a foot. But let's see. Cody says he's got JBL Studio 590s for the front stays, at JBL Studio 530s for the sides and rears, and JBL Studio 2 6 ICDs in the sink. Nice. I haven't heard JBL's personally. They were at Cedia, and I think you got a chance to listen to that room, right?
The
I think
JBL.
those were the synthesis though. At
Yeah, those are
Cedia.
the synthesis. Yes.
Yeah, I heard that line was like ridiculous all 3 days, so I didn't get to listen to it. But I've heard JBLs are really, like, people love them and they sound really really good.
Yeah, they make really great speakers. I've had the opportunity to listen to a couple of them,
Okay.
and yeah, they're really good. It's well built. That's the good thing
Yeah.
with them, and I think that's one company that you can almost stand by the products that they make.
Yeah,
They're
they've
really,
been around for ever.
yeah, they have that
So
that experience.
yeah, so he also has two 18-inch, wow, GSG Martys for the front and two passive Polk 12s for rear sails. That's, man, two 18s. That's gotta be
Ooh.
pressurizing your room, man. I have the biggest sub that I've ever had, which is the PB 4000. That's a 13.5 inch, and that thing, like, I don't even have it turned up halfway, and it hits hard. I can't imagine having one, let alone two 18s in my. I mean, he's got 4 subs, so I'm sure that sounds amazing in there. He's powering it with Crown 2502s. I almost bought some Crowns at one time when I was first looking at amps. And eventually I ended up going with EMOTIVA probably about 10 years ago. But yeah, Crowns a lot of people love those too. But yeah.
I just have a pair of PV 2000 Pros, and I'm looking to add 2 more.
Nice.
Just so that I can. I guess not. I don't know if I feel like I'm missing out on much, but I think there's enough room to gain more by adding an additional pair of subs. So yeah, I'll try to see if I can add some extra SVS. I would at least like to just stick with the same brand SVS,
Yeah.
and if I have 4 PV 2000 Pros in that room, I think you should. It's not going to be anything close to what many of the other guys have, but
Yeah.
it will work well for my room, and especially with the home theater being upstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
you wanna
what's
keep
your room dimensions again?
it's 18 by 20.
So 18 feet wide?
Yeah.
Man, that is a huge room.
Yeah, it's a
18 by
huge
20.
room. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
So
It
yeah,
was an
4 subs
open
would
space.
probably benefit
Yeah.
you a lot.
Yeah, it was. You know how they have the open spaces in our Texas homes where it's like a game room,
Mm-hmm. Oh
with the
yeah, yeah,
half
yeah.
wall. Yeah, that's what I did. I ended up closing up the half wall and then just converting it into a dedicated room. So that's why it's large. It's a real big room. And
Yeah.
I actually have the home theater to one side of the room, so it's not even centered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so when I bought my house, the media room, I had a choice of either like another bedroom or a media room, and I was like, I want the media room. And then on the other side of that was a office, but the media room was like 10 by, I want to say it was like 10 by 10. It was super small.
Yeah.
And so I was like, nah, I'm just gonna bust out that wall and just make it one big room. So that's what I ended up doing, because I was like, I can't. I mean, I'm sure that's probably not necessary, but I was like, I can't. That's too small. I can't do that.
Yeah, I think most of the houses, at least in the Dallas area, they usually will come with the home theater, but they're, like you said, small rooms, like 10 by 10, 8 by 10. We saw a couple of those when we were trying to build. And that's why, when we went with this plan, I knew right from the go that I was just going to take that open floor game room and just convert it. There was no point trying to get, I just said, okay, keep this space that I'm in right now as my office, which was going to be the supposed home theater. And I was like, no, I'll just use it for the office and I'm going to close up the game room.
Yeah. Did you have any pushback from the wife about that, or?
Not really. I think she was just ready for me to have my own space. She was like, yeah, you just whatever
just
you
do
do.
it.
Yeah, just
Hey,
do it.
man,
I don't want to see the speakers in the living room because I had them in the living room where we used to live. So they're like, nope, no speakers in the living room. You go have your space up there. But guess who watches? Who
that's
uses
funny.
it more now?
Right? That's
She uses
that's.
it more than I do.
I hear that's how it always happens.
Yep.
Is that, I don't know. How many of you guys are married in the chat? Is that how it works out for you guys? Let's see. Corey has, so yeah, me and Corey have almost the same setup now. So he's got 1723S THX monitors for front, surrounds for rear, and then 1961s for front and rear heights, dual SBS. So that's a killer system that he's got there.
Yeah. Ooh.
Cody says, I can't remember which driver it is. I think it's the Dayton Audio one. I actually bought the speakers that Giles McCoy built on YouTube. So cool. Let's see what else they have. Yeah, dual 18s, like that's. I mean, I wouldn't even be able to fit that. So one thing that I have the PB4000, and then I have a 12-inch cylinder sub. I think it's the first version. But man, I keep seeing the, and I just don't have the funds right now, but I keep seeing those Stark Sounds, those 15-inch buy one get one free. I'm just like, I don't know how they're making money off of that. And eventually I want to buy them just because that's such a good deal. The only thing is trying to integrate Seal with
ported.
Ported.
That was the only thing that stopped me from getting. I had those things sitting in my cart, and I hit that checkout button so many times. And I'll go back to Joe and Tell or reach out to Technodal, like, hey, you think? And everybody's like, no, but I think they're going the market saturation route where it's like, okay, let's just get enough of our subs out there and just build the community, which is great. And I think if anyone is starting off with a home theater or you want to replace your current set of home theaters, upgrade, yeah, they're really good. But I just stopped short of pay. If I go to my cart, I probably still have it.
Yeah,
it's sitting in there.
It's in my cart.
Yeah, but I was very concerned about just trying to integrate it, and I was like, I don't want to pay for this just to demo it, then start looking for who wants to buy them. So
yeah, I mean, I would definitely love to have 15s, because I mean, even though it's sealed, a 15-inch driver, that thing is still gonna probably pressurize your room. It's probably not gonna be as quick, but the only thing is, like, we're saying, is trying to integrate it. Now, it'd probably be easier if you had like a mini DSP, or something that you can individually tune each sub, or if you have a receiver or a pre-pro that has independent subs. But I'm just like, every time I see it, I'm just like, man, I've never seen a company just give you a free subwoofer. And I mean, I hear that they're pretty good. I think Shane's had them on his channel. But yeah, I mean,
yeah, I don't think I've seen any videos on measurements, but there's
not a whole lot. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if there's one out there, I'll show up. I'm pretty sure I'd like to see it, because they look well built.
Yeah.
And they don't look like something that would occupy a lot of space. They're not like the monolith subs. Those things are huge. Yeah, the PV16s and all of that. Those are really huge. So they look like very compact subwoofers and look well built. I just don't know anything about the measurements,
Yeah.
and I wish they had potted subs. I would have picked those up quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting. And they seem like they're a good brand. I don't know too much about them. I've only started hearing about them like within the last probably like year and a half. I think I don't know how long they've been around. I know they have amplifiers, they've got subs, they've got speakers. I think Giles. I don't watch his channel too much, but I've seen him like come up on my YouTube feed. I know Shane has had them in his theater, and I think he said that they're pretty good. But other than that, like I don't think that there's a whole lot of coverage on them. So, but yeah, it's just such a good deal where I'm like, man, why not? Like if I have the money to, But
Yep. I mean, if I guess one can just pick up four of them and just replace the entire. But I
yeah,
love my PV2000 Pros. They've served me well, so I think I'll keep them. If anything, I'll just add two more of those to my setup, and I should be good.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah,
want clean sound. I'm not that much of a bass head, but
yeah. Appreciate it, Cody. You have a great evening as well if you're still on. Let's see. So next topic, HDFury. So one of the reasons why I wanted to have Icon is because he also has an HDFury. So if you follow the channel, I have a HDFury 4K Diva. And if you don't know what those devices are, it's basically a device that allows you to get Dolby Vision on a non-Dolby Vision projector or TV. I think most people are probably using them on projectors.
Yep.
But I've got one, and then you've got their like flagship one. You've got the Room, right?
Yeah, the Room.
Yeah. Have you done anything else with it yet, or are you still tinkering with it?
I have continued to tinker with it, and thank you for making videos on that stuff, because I heard about it from your channel, and I was like, okay, I really want to try this stuff out. And I kind of hesitated for a while because every time I went on YouTube and you typed it, there was only your videos out there, and I was like,
Yeah.
is nobody else using this?
I can't figure out why. That's why I started making videos, because when I found out about it through another channel, and then I was like, why is this? And then I got it. I'm like, man, thing is awesome. Why is there nobody making videos about this? So
It is really awesome. I'm still surprised. I don't know what their marketing team is doing, if they have one, but they need to start marketing. That's
yeah, and I've reached out to them at least 4, maybe 5 times, like last year, like within a year. And for whatever reason, like they keep saying, like the last time I reached out to them, they said they're not a big team. Like I guess it's a small team. And I don't think that they're in the US, but they're basically like, we're a small team. We don't send out loaners and we don't do interviews. And I'm like, and they're like, but they always say like, you never know, maybe in the future. So I was actually thinking about reaching out to them again, because I haven't reached out to them this year, but I'm like, why not? Like, don't you want more people? Because there's literally almost nothing on YouTube, and the ones that I could find, it wasn't very helpful. It was just like, here's this device, this is what it does.
Setting up, yes, but they actually do have a large following though, because they have a Discord page.
Yeah, and I've heard
and
that.
I joined the Discord, and I've actually gone on there, try to be active and ask questions. And there was an update that recently came out. I think it's on the Room. It's on version 552.
Oh, really? Huh. I need to check to see if there's one for mine.
You should check. They push out updates quite frequently, which is good. But the Discord is very active. They have quite a handful of users on there, and I'm like,
I need to check that out.
You guys need to get on social media or something, and get this thing out there. So it might be a market space that needs to be explored for just YouTube and social media, but I have loved it. It's improved the video quality on my Sony 325 ES projector, which is a really solid 4K projector. And Yeah,
Native, right?
yeah, it's native 4K.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people have asked me, like some people have emailed me. Actually, one guy emailed me. He actually called me. He was like, "Can I call you?" Because he was wanting to know if he should get one. And I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." So I called him. We were talking about. But a lot of people have asked, like, "Can you really see a difference?" And obviously, it's going to depend on your setup because what it does is, and Corey asked, "Are those similar to a Mad VR, a device in line that helps you get the most out of HDR?" Yes and no. The Mad VR is way more powerful and can do way more things than the HDFury.
Yeah.
But what the HDFury does is, and I'll try to explain this. If you know how HDR works, so there's two types of Dolby Vision. There's the standard Dolby Vision, which is capable of 12-bit color, and then there's low latency Dolby Vision. So Dolby Vision, it's doing tone mapping, it's doing it, in real time. But Dolby Vision, the tone mapping is done on your display, so your TV. And then low latency Dolby Vision is a lesser version. And I've tried to find the bit depth on it, but I'm assuming it can at least do 10-bit. But low latency Dolby Vision is done on the player.
Yep.
So because I didn't even know that there was two versions until like a couple of years ago. Because I was like, low latency Dolby Vision, what is that? So basically, if you have an HDFury device and you have most like the Oppos, the Xbox Series X, and then the Apple TV, some of them will let you actually select which Dolby Vision you want to employ. You can do Dolby Vision or low latency Dolby Vision. If you select low latency Dolby Vision, that means your Blu-ray player or your Apple TV or Xbox is going to do the tone mapping on that device instead of it being done on the display. And so what the HDFury device does is, I think it tricks your display into thinking that it can support it. So it takes, let's say your Oppo Blu-ray player does the tone mapping on the device, and then what the HDFury does is it takes that tone mapping signal and then puts it back into an HDR10 container, because your TV still has to be able to read it. So it's still being tone mapped, but it's being sent to your display or your projector in an HDR10 container. So that's kind of the easiest way to explain it. But yeah, a lot of people ask me, they're like, can you really see a difference? I can. And again, it depends on your display. Your display has to support HDR10 because that's the container. Yeah. So everything in your chain, your receiver, your TV or projector, it all has to support HDR10 because that's the container that's being sent. But yeah, I noticed from HDR10 to Dolby Vision, like right away, I was like, whoa, like it's hard to explain unless you've seen it. But yeah, and especially you have a way better projector than I do, so I can't imagine how good it looks.
Yeah, and I believe it does up to 12 beats, because now I'm even taking a look on the IP just to take, it does beat to 12 beats, 2.2.
Okay.
I don't know what 2.2 actually means, but
me either.
It does. It did improve. I'm glad I have it. I'm wondering why I did not get it much earlier. But like you said, I think it still boils down to, the type of projector you have, and still maybe the quality of the screen that you have and your source material. Because when I use it on the Apple TV 4K, it is marvelous. It's really good.
I can concur with that because, I mean, everything else I would say on my Zedu, it looks pristine. But I think the Apple TV, and it's just still streaming. I believe, I want to say Plex, it does support that. But like if you use anything on the Apple TV that's streaming in Dolby Vision, it's pristine. Yep. Like it looks good. And what's cool about that is those devices is you can log into, it has a web GUI. So you can log into, you just type in the IP address, and then you can go in there and you can actually, that's how I use it. There is an on-screen display with buttons. I don't even know why, because you would literally have to be at the device, wherever your device is at, you would have to be standing there. And I'm like, that thing's in a rack. in the back of the theater. Like, who's using it like that? I mean, unless it's in the front, but even then, you still have to be on the device pressing
Yeah,
buttons.
the on-screen display is not user-friendly. Does I mean,
No, not at all.
the quality, you can still see what you're doing, but like you said, it's sitting there in a rack. The way the cable management is done, where you have to plug in cables on both
Yeah,
sides, it's
I
already an
don't like
awkward
that.
fit. Yeah, it's already an awkward fit in the rack. So I don't even have mine sitting well in my rack the way I want
Me
it.
either,
It's just kind of
because of
tilted
the
to one
cables.
side. Yes, because of the cables, because you have HDMI running on both sides of it. So yeah, I don't think anybody uses that on-screen display. It's an added feature, I guess. But yeah, I use the browser, and they do have a mobile app. If you tried that, it's
Trash.
almost good for nothing. Yes,
I don't I don't know why it's even like, it's almost, to me it almost seems like they made the app and then they just like abandon any further development, because you open, like, you can't do anything. Like, even the functions that are there, I've tried it and
don't
it
work.
just doesn't work. So yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I love the device for what it does. I hate the way they have the HDMI's situated, and I wish that they made one that had more than 4 ports, because I have more than 4 devices. So I basically have to decide which ones I want to use. So I have my Apple TV, my Xbox, my Blu-ray player, and then my Zadoo. And there's another one because I have to switch back and forth between my Zadoo and the Blu-ray player. But yeah, I'm hoping at some point in the future they come out with one with more ports and something that can do like what the Mad VR does, where it, like, the auto aspect changing. But I
ratio.
don't know if
Yeah,
that's ever.
yeah. I think the app, when I saw it, I was like, one of their interns probably started working on this and then left the company, because that's exactly what it is.
Yep.
It was a
I'm like,
project started by an intern that left, and nobody else picked it up. But the it's a really good. I have my Oppo 203 plugged in. I have my
same.
obviously my projector. I have the PS5, so I can play on the projector in the theater there. So, and then what else? I think I have I have the Apple TV 4K plugged in there, and it works really. It works really good. I don't
Yeah,
know. I just can't understand why it's not out there. That
me
people
either. I
are.
mean, like you said, there's obviously a following online, like people know about it, but as far as, and because I the main reason why I want to reach out to them is to have someone explain, like, you can do a bunch of stuff in there. Like, I use the presets, but you can actually go in there and manually configure it, from what I've understood, way better than the presets, but I don't know how to do it. And
Yeah,
so I want someone to come on and to, like, kind of have a tutorial, and then so that people can see how good these devices are. But I don't know, man. They're not, I don't know if it's like current management or something where they're like, no, we're not doing that. But I don't understand the thought process.
yeah. Because on the web GUI, they have an entire page dedicated to HDR, and then they have
Yeah,
one for Dolby Vision. I have
you can
no
configure that
idea.
thing. Yeah,
I have
and I've heard,
no idea what to do with the Dolby. I
me
keep
either.
playing with it. It has the whole DCI P3, the 12-bit 422.
Yeah,
I'm like, man, I wish I knew what to do with this. And it has the whole ER. There's the macros too, so you can even set up
yeah,
macros and run commands and all of that. Like, from a software perspective, it looks like a very solid application,
yeah.
but I think only 5 to 10% of the users actually.
Yeah. And I mean, if all I ever am able to use is the presets, like, I'm happy with it because it gives me Dolby Vision and it looks good. But if I can configure it in a way that I get even more benefit out of it, then yeah, I would totally do it. I don't know how to. And, like, yeah, I'm with you, man. I don't understand the the thought
Yeah,
process on getting more information out there, more press to show people, like, hey, this is a device. Because yeah, not everybody's, most people are not going to be able to afford a Mad VR.
yeah,
And I've seen a couple people online, and even some of my subscribers. There's a guy that made one himself, Like he custom built it. I guess you could say he kind of reverse engineered it, but I'm like, that's too much work, man. And then like to actually get the video card that you would need, there's a couple things that you would need, and it's going to be like over $1,000, which is still vastly cheaper than a Mad VR. But I'm like, I don't want to do all that either. Like, I don't necessarily want to have another computer in my theater that's going to be generating, noise and heat.
Yeah.
So that's why I love the HDFury device. It's got some quirks, it's got some little things, but overall, like for what it does, it's great. I love it.
Yeah, I think with the Mad VR, they do have the software version, which was basically what they ended up taking and putting in a box. And I started to work on one. There's someone who I know that is really good at it and has built an entire system that works. But obviously you're not going to get the same types of update that goes into the actual product itself, and there's probably a ton of other processing and software stuff that it does that you would not get with the software version of it. But I'm for anything that really, short of paying $450,000 for a Christie Eclipse. that projector was really great.
That was amazing.
Yes,
that was great.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm like, that's like more than 4 times of my house. Like an actual, that's a mansion for some people, and this, I mean, as great as it is, I don't think anything's worth that much. But like that was the greatest projector that I personally seen.
It was so impressive because even when how you go between scenes and like you're going from like a light scene to a dark scene, and you could basically put your hands in front of you, this close,
can't see anything,
and see your hands.
Yeah, they kept saying that before we went in there, and I was like, it's a projector, it's putting off light. Like, but then you go in there and you're like, oh wow. Like, it was funny because when I went in there with Chris, that home theater dude, and they went so far as the guy, I forget the guy's name, but Chris, he was filming, and just the little light from his camera, the power on, he went and got some masking tape and put it on his camera. So
he had us black out the blue lights.
That's funny.
Even
I'm like, wow, these guys are serious.
Yeah, my mic had one too. I had to tape it up.
That's funny.
Yes, it's impressive.
Yeah.
The size though, and I think you have to get like FTC approval or something to have it in your house.
Yeah, and I asked him too. I was like, what about power? He's like, yeah, you can't just plug that thing into your standard outlet. Like, you actually have to get, and that's probably factored into the cost, but I forgot what he said. You actually have to get some like separate power unit to make sure it doesn't like destroy your breaker. It's crazy.
I think there's an actual approval process for you to be able to own something like that.
Really?
Put it in a consumer in your home.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard one of the guys say that, if he maybe making a joke or just being truthful, but it's powerful. The size, I don't know how you put that in your house, but it was impressive, but short of being able to, pay for an NX9 or any of the NZ JVC projectors, the HDFury is the closest thing to, those of us who are on the budget side, and I'm all for good picture qualities, as long as it's within one's budget, as long as when you pay for it, you don't have sleepless nights.
Yeah.
That's what would happen if I go get a Mad VR. I'll have a couple of sleepless nights.
Couple months.
Sleepless nights. And yes, I might end up sleeping on the couch too. So
yeah, I don't want to do that.
Yep.
So Corey says, what projectors are you using? So I'm using, and I'm still using my Epson 5040 UB. I've changed the bulb once, and so my next upgrade is going to be the LS12000B, but I'm still using the Epson 5040. And then Ike, you're using
I have the Sony 325 ES
native 4K, right?
Yeah, the cheapest native 4K they have. So
so
I'll be sticking with that for now.
Yeah, I'm excited when I do get the Epson 12000B. I'm excited to use the HDFury on that, and I'm trying to figure out if I want to, because the LS 12000B has HDMI 2.1, and I know you have the Vroom, which is HDMI 2.1, but I was looking at the specs on the Diva, and that one actually supports eARC, but it doesn't do the 8K, and it only has, I think the bandwidth is still limited to 18 gigabits per second. So,
Yeah,
but I mean, I don't really do a bunch of gaming, so I don't really need the 8K, but I do like having the HDMI 2.1 so that it cuts out that black screen. But then you have everything else has to be HDMI 2.1 too. So
yeah, your entire setup connection, that entire chain has to be 2.1 to benefit from it anyways. But the Fury, I think it's the perfect solution for anyone who doesn't want to go out and buy a brand new receiver.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it does the HDMI 2.1, and then you can just, it basically would parse it and convert it. I tested that, because the receiver I have in my office here is a Pioneer.
Okay.
I think it's one of the old, I think it's the 503. It's not HDMI 2.1. So I just tested the Vroom and my PlayStation 5 and the Series X, and I was able to get all the HDMI 2.1
Nice.
features, VRR and everything.
So you went straight into the screen. You went straight into it and bypassed your receiver. Yeah.
Yes, bypass the receiver, and everything goes straight in back to the TV. So it does work. At least I know for sure. I tested that. It's an amazing device.
Yeah. Yeah. So Vladimir says, greetings from Chicago. Hello, Vladimir. Thanks for watching. I just purchased the HDFury and have been enjoying it. Which version did you buy? So he says, if I'm using an Apple TV as my source, okay, and using the HDFury, should I select Dolby Vision on my Apple TV or select HDR? So I actually, Home Theater Engineering actually has a video on this. So you want to go in there and you want to test. So if you have the Apple TV 4K, you go in there and you select Dolby Vision, and it'll say, can you, are you able to see the screen? You select yes. But then you go back and you select SDR, because the way that he explained it is all the menus on Apple TV is in SDR. And I can confirm this because before I did that, if you have it set to Dolby Vision, everything's going to look like kind of blown out because the settings and the menus on the Apple TV is in SDR. So you want to select SDR. You also want to do that because if you're watching something on the Apple TV in SD or in SDR, if you have it selected to Dolby Vision, it's going to look weird. Yeah. So make sure you can test it to Dolby Vision and then set it to SDR. But then whenever you play something that has Dolby Vision, it'll automatically switch over if you select match frame rate and match resolution, I think. Then it will automatically kick it. But yeah, if you're using that source, that setup, you want to select SDR.
Yeah, that's the exact setup that I have. I have it on SDR, and then I have the match frame rate. So whenever you're watching HDR content, it automatically switches. You don't want your menu, the entire menu and all that will be blown out if you just leave it on Dolby Vision. So
yeah. It's a and the good thing about those HDFury products is it's not really, at least for me, there's not really a learning curve. I kind of went in there and played around with it and figured it out myself because I was like, when I first got it, I was like, okay, I got it hooked up. How do I set this up? And I actually just found the presets by accident. And that's another thing. That's what I don't understand is they don't want to do any videos or any training, but like when you buy it, there's no instruction manual, at least that I can remember, right? Do you remember seeing an instruction manual that says, hey, use these presets? And there might be like something that's very basic.
Yeah, the manual that comes with it is a couple of pages.
Super basic.
But there's nothing about the presets. I'm glad I didn't have to figure that out. I just watched your videos, which is really good for me. So thanks for doing that. But I reached out to you when I was having some issues with not seeing my menu on screen. I was able to go on the forums, and somebody actually I took a screenshot. I thought I shared it with you. I was planning to
I
share that
think you did.
screenshot, but I
Or maybe,
figured it out and I was able to get the volume to show up
no, I
on
don't think you did.
screen.
How did you fix that?
Yeah, I went on the what is it called? On the on the forums that they have on the Discord forum, and I
Hmm.
typed in the question, and one of the guys was kind enough to share his his settings, and I went there and just made the adjustments, and
Hmm.
it worked. So I have screenshots of that. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
But yeah, yeah, I'm glad I didn't have to try to figure it out, because you have to, especially if you're not familiar with the browser page, to be able to log into your IP and
Yeah.
then make those. If you try to use the on-screen display, yeah, good
I
luck.
turned that off quick. Like it was when it first came up, it was nice to see it, but then I was like, oh, this comes, and I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. So I went in there and yeah, I literally, and it didn't take me like a ridiculously long time. Like it wasn't like weeks. I want to say maybe it was a couple days or maybe even a day. But like I was just like what am I supposed to do? Like, okay, it says that I can get this because, and that was another thing. When I first bought it, I was still a little bit kind of skeptical
Yeah,
because I couldn't find any videos on YouTube. I didn't know where to look. So I was just like, man, I don't know. And then I couldn't find out how to activate the Dolby Vision. I was like, man, am I gonna have to send this thing back? And then I just started playing around with it. And I remember I found that EasyHT page and I just started switching it and somehow I figured it out and I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, oh wow, this thing is actually like really great. It's really not that hard. You just have to make sure that you change the preset and make sure your TV settings or your projector and your streaming settings are right. So that's why I was like, man, like let me try to make some videos because I don't understand how anyone else is supposed to figure this out without any type of instruction. Yeah, like the instruction manual is literally like a couple pages.
yeah,
And I'm like, like you've got this great device that does all this awesome stuff, but and I don't know, maybe that's why they were saying they're small and they don't have time to talk
yeah.
to anybody. But I'm just like, man, you gotta do better than that.
Maybe they have something better that makes way more money for them. So this is probably
Maybe,
not top 10 for their priorities,
yeah,
but it's a great tool. I actually plan to do a review of it also, because
nice,
it's a game changer for,
yeah. If you
for
have a
me.
projector,
Yeah.
it's like it's a no brainer because I don't see it happening anytime soon. I know some of the short throws have it, but you're never going to get Dolby Vision on a projector just because of, from what I've read is that Dolby has very strict requirements on licensing Dolby Vision. And because the light output from projectors is so much lower than TVs, they don't approve it. But yeah, I mean, HDR10 Plus, I believe, does up to 10-bit and Dolby Vision 12-bit. So it's not going to be the same, but being able to get Dolby Vision on your projector it's great, man. Like that's probably one of my favorite things, most valuable things in my theater right now.
Yeah, and I mean, with the way the projector technology works, even if you start having projectors that all are Dolby Vision capable, you still have to have a really great screen, right? Because
Yep.
it's about the light that bounces back. That makes a difference too. So if you're getting a Dolby Vision projector, you probably will end up having to change your projector screen if you don't have one that is
Yep.
really
Good point.
great. But yeah, it's starting to come out. I'm sure companies will start paying for it. I just don't see with the immersion that comes with having a large screen, how much color or quality do you want, in terms
Mm-hmm.
of having, except maybe if you have like an open space, but if you have a dedicated room where you have light control and things like that.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
And if your room, like mine is light controlled, and actually only the front half of my theater is blacked out. The other back half is I still have white walls, and it doesn't affect the picture quality at all. because I wanted that. I have the front and then the ceiling. I want to paint the rest of it. Literally, the only reason why I haven't done it yet is just because I don't want to do it, and I hate painting, and I have to take everything off the wall and do it. But I was like, as long as I get my front half, like the side walls and the ceiling blacked out, like it's even when you turn the lights out, it's pitch black in there, even with the white walls. And then of course I have some blackout blinds. But Sigmund, let's see, Sigmund Judge says, am I right in thinking a HDFury device would be helpful for full quality capture for review purposes? I need a capture rig. So I don't believe you can capture images through this. It's basically just passing everything through. Like it's passing your audio through, it's passing the tone mapping through, and then it's putting it in a different container. You would still probably need some type of capture card if you're trying to do review purposes. And even then, I don't know the capabilities of the capture card. Like I don't know of any capture card that can capture Dolby Vision. I have a capture card that passes through HDR, but I don't think it captures it. Like it can pass it through, but
Yeah, it will pass it through. I don't know about capturing it.
yeah, I don't think it can. So I don't think HDFury devices are really designed like that. They're basically just a video source that passes through the audio, because it doesn't do anything to the audio. It doesn't change it. You can downsample, like you can go from 4K to HD or 4K to I think 720p, and then the audio, it'll downsample the audio if you want to, which
If you want to.
yeah, I've never used that. I would never use that. I don't know anybody that would actually want to do that, or I don't even know why you would need to do that.
I don't know why they put that port there, the 720 audio port, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure, but
yeah, I think it's probably designed for, no, it has a dedicated Sonos port too, because you can also use it for,
oh really?
yeah, it does have one port that is for, I think it's a Sonos soundbar for people who want to use sound bars. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, bro, I think we're actually using less than 5% of what that tool is capable of doing.
Definitely. I know we are. And that's why I'm like, man, I'll probably reach out to them again and see, but they don't seem very excited to get like more press. So maybe they think they have enough.
Let's send them emails.
Yeah.
So maybe they might be like, okay, 2 people are now emailing us.
Yeah. If you guys want some tutorials, email HDFury and let them know that you would like to see some extensive like tutorials, because I don't know about the other people's in the Discord, if they're doing other stuff, if they know how to configure it, but
yeah, they actually have live. I'll send you the link to the Discord. They actually have live support.
Yeah, it looks like my camera died.
We lost your video.
Yeah, yes. Give me 1 second. Let me change the battery.
I got you. Yeah, but they actually do have live support, 24/7 support on there. Yeah. Let's see what other questions we have. Yeah, don't you like when installers make mistakes in terms of decoration? But by how much did they misjudge the center speaker though? Like, is it higher than you expected, or is it to the left or to the right?
Sorry about that, everyone. That's really weird. I have it. I have my camera plugged in, but somehow the battery died. So, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good.
You just made me take a look at my own camera and make sure.
Yeah, well, and I think I forgot I have it set to, which it shouldn't matter because, like I said, it's plugged in. That's the only way that I can use it, but it's on 5.9K, so I'm wondering if the battery is draining faster than it's charging.
Okay.
But I don't know. Did you answer any of these questions or comments?
Yeah, I was responding to George's
Okay.
last comment about his installer is not properly positioning his center speaker clearance.
Oh man. Yeah, and see, I don't understand. I've heard some stories about that where installers have messed up stuff, and I'm like, man, you're supposed to be like, if I'm paying you, like, I want to make sure, and that's what like I like that. I mean, I consider myself tech savvy. I don't know everything, but I always like to what if I can do it myself, I'm gonna do it. I'm only gonna pay someone if it's something where I'm like, oh man, it's electrical, or like, I mean, I wired everything. Well, I hadn't pre-wired my theater, but I installed all the speakers. Like, I enjoy doing it, but that always scares me too, because I'm like, man, if I pay somebody and it doesn't work out, like, I don't want that experience. But
Yeah, I mean, I went entirely DIY with mine, with a great friend of mine who literally helped do all the great work. I'm handy with a lot of things, with DIY, but when it comes to electricity,
yeah,
count me out.
yeah. Now I will say
That's
I
the
have
only thing
done.
I'll pay for. But
Yeah, the only stuff that I have done is I can like I've swapped out some switches for smart switches. Like, that to me is not that hard. Obviously, I looked on YouTube and make sure you turn the power off. But those are usually pretty easy because it comes with instructions, and then it usually will take you to like YouTube and it has a step by step. So I can do that. But as far as like if I wanted to add like a 20 amp circuit, like I don't know how to do that. I have to contract that out.
yeah, I think that was really about the only thing. But from everything from the drywall to running the cables to building the riser to making the mistake of building a star ceiling, which is probably the
That sounds
best thing
hard.
I have, but man, I would not go down that route again.
Yeah, I watch videos on that, and I'm like, nah, I'm not doing all that. And I know that you can get the lights to where it doesn't affect the on-screen stuff, but that was another like issue because I'm like, man, I don't want that washing out the screen. But I've seen some where if you do it right, like, it's not going to do that. And obviously you can dim them or just turn them off. But I'm like, that's a lot of work that I don't want to do.
Yeah, with the way fiber optics with lighting works, it's not that it doesn't reflect much
Okay,
because it's basically the strand, and you
that's
basically
right.
wherever
Yeah,
you cut it, the light is basically just at the
at the
tip of
tip.
where you cut it. And for mine, after passing it through the fabric, I trimmed it really, really close. So it's basically the glue that I use from the inside that is just holding
Oh,
it.
okay.
So for some of them, if I actually go and just push it, it's just going to go right back. So yeah, you
Gotcha.
can trim it really that low. And the lighting control, especially the ones on Amazon, well, I think the one I got, you can dim it to very low levels. So, you know, I if I'm just doing a regular, if I'm watching a basketball game or something that is not immersive, I just have it on for the
Hmm.
ambience and just the aesthetics of it. But yeah, if I'm watching a movie or something, I turn everything else.
Yeah, same. I have my riser lights that I keep on 1% anytime I'm watching anything, and it doesn't affect the screen. At least I can see, if I need to get up and walk, and then everything else I just have it turned off. So yeah, so that's going to bring us to our next topic. What is your most important device in your home theater? So I like this question because I'm sure like a lot of people are going to come up with a different answer. Some people might say it's my receiver. Some people might say it's my projector, it's my speakers. It might be, a Blu-ray player streaming device. So I wanted to kind of get your thoughts and then some of the viewers on like, what do you think is your like, so if someone came to you and said, hey, you got to get rid of everything in your theater, you got to start all over, but you can only keep one thing to start with, what would you go with?
Hmm.
And it can be more than one. Like if it says speakers, then yeah, you can keep all your speakers, but you have to only keep one and start over with that.
I think it's It's my Sony 4K projector, and it's because it's the most expensive thing in
Yeah, smart. That's smart. And
the
it's
home
good
theater,
too.
and it's good. It's it's the cheapest native 4K Sony has, but it's the most expensive thing that I have in the home theater. And yeah, that's the one thing. Every other thing, the Oppo 203 obviously is a rare find. I wouldn't want to trade that off just because I would want it back, and I'm not going to pay
Hmm.
somebody, $3,000-$4,000 to buy that
Yeah.
back. So I wouldn't, But yeah, besides that, those two. And if at least can I keep my room? Yes.
Well, yeah, yeah. You got to
I
have a
like my
room. You got to
room.
have something to put it in, right?
Yeah. So yeah, the projector would be the one thing that I would not hastily replace, except if someone is gifting me a better projector. Yeah, that's the one thing.
Yeah. Let us know down in the comments what would be your most important device. So for me, I've kind of struggled with this because I think it depends on, like, if you were to ask me this question, depending on what time you asked me in my home theater journey, I would probably have a different answer. Like a couple months ago, I probably would have said the HDFury, just because my projector is like a Epson 5040. It's not the nicest projector. It's not the cheapest projector, but like I plan on upgrading that anyway. But now that I have the 1723 monitors, I think I would go with my speakers. They're like, I'm just excuse me, I'm enjoying them so much, and it's kind of one of those things where, I've always had like super budget speakers. I started off with, I think the first speakers that I bought for myself were Polk. What were those things? There were some cheap monitor speakers, like I think they cost a couple $100.
Yeah.
And then I had those for, actually I still have some of them. I'm not using them, but then I got the Polk RTI 8, which was, they had just stopped manufacturing them, and then they went with the RTI A line. I had two of those. I got those from Fry's. I paid like $150 for like both of them. Used those for, man, I still have them. I just moved them out of my theater when I got the 1723s. But it's kind of one of those things where you don't know until you get them. And I was like, I mean, just immediate difference where I'm like, oh my goodness, like I'm hearing stuff. I'm hearing the same things, but I'm hearing them differently now. And then there's also, which when I do a review, I'll talk about, there's a couple scenes where I'm like, I had no idea that that was in the track. I've never heard it before. And I went back, I'm like, wow. And some of it's like subtle. And then some of it's like, okay, like I've seen this stuff, but now it just opens up more. So I would probably go with, my speakers. If it wasn't my speakers, then it would probably be the HDFury, man. Like I really love that thing. The Oppo, man, when they first stopped making them, I genuinely was thinking about selling it, because I looked the other day. I think they're selling for like, some of them are like $1,500, $1,600. But I was like, I love this thing so much, and it's funny because I don't even use it very much.
Yeah.
I use it for testing sometimes. Honestly, it just sits there. But even then, I'm like, I don't want to get rid of this thing, because I know I haven't seen anything that's better than this still. And it's been 4 years since they stopped making them.
Yeah, everything else that's coming out is basically looks like it, both
Mm-hmm.
in physical form and in the menu. They're just basically Oppo ripoffs, and it's one of those things that will always have a sentimental market value.
Yep.
So there's no point. I'll keep it in the box if I'm not using it. But yes, I use mine, consistently. But yeah, I think my speakers, I love them, but I don't. They're really great, and I would recommend them to anyone who's looking for budget in-wall speakers. The ARENDALs, if I were to go with on-wall speakers, that's probably because, one, that's something that will fall within my budget.
Mm-hmm.
But but they're pretty well built. You know, the guys, the
They're
company and the
overbuilt.
brains behind it are, yes, they're overbuilt. You know, and you should try watching Black Hawk Down on your new speakers. If you have the 4K Blu-ray disc, go watch it.
Yeah, I've
You will
heard.
be amazed with the action scenes. With it, it's an amazing movie just to watch. But when you have really solid speakers, it's almost like you can just hear things zip by you while you're
Mhm.
sitting.
Yeah, I'm noticing that now too with the especially with the because all my amps are Emotiva, and I have the UPA 700, which they haven't made that for years. It's a 8 channel, no, I'm sorry, 7 channel amp. But even the basics, that was another thing that was immediate because when I first set up the speakers, the 1723 monitors, I was playing around with those and listening to stuff. But I was also noticing, I was like, man, what I'm like my in ceilings are sound a lot more lively, and I was like, why do they sound? And then I was like, wait, I just swapped out my amplifier. Like that also is an immediate like. I didn't think it would be that much of a difference because it's a basics. I mean, it's their. I mean, Emotiva makes great products, but it's like their
Yeah.
entry level. But man, like I I'm like smiling, like literally smiling when I'm watching stuff now. So I'm like super excited to go back and watch a bunch of different movies from beginning. Cause right now I've just been like sampling different tracks and I'm just like, I had no idea my room could sound like this.
Yeah, I mean, having those amplifiers, it's like the OSDs. I have all my speakers, including my height speakers, running through my, OSD amplifiers, and they're really good. They do well. Like the in-wall speakers are the sensitivity. It's about 89.5, so it's
Mhm.
not the most efficient. They're kind of power hungry, but they run at 4 ohms. So
Yeah.
they're literally just power hungry, and those
Hmm.
things just drive and running them at 4 ohms. Like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to put my front three on a separate 3 channel
Yeah.
amplifier. Then I have my surrounds on the 5 channel, and then the heights go on another amplifier. So yeah, that really does make a difference in the home theater. If you can just, there's never, I don't think there's anything like too much power
No, yeah,
going
and
to your speakers.
yeah, and I'm using my receiver as a preamp basically. Like I don't have any. I'm not using any of the internal amps, which is actually so. I've been pivoting here lately, but I I think on my last stream I said I was going to try to save up for the Trinov, but I've been looking at the Emotiva, um, the now I forgot the RMC one.
Yeah.
So I actually have a video coming out on Sunday, but I I think I'm gonna pivot and save up for that. So
Okay.
like I said, I have a video that's coming out Sunday, but they are I don't know when they're gonna do it, but they're basically gearing up for some new processors. So they lowered the prices on their current processors, and they're going to be coming out with some new ones. Basically, they're going to be like a plus line. So it's going to be like the RMC1 Plus, the RMC1L Plus, the XMC2 Plus. And basically, what they're going to do is they've lowered the prices, which I assume they've lowered it so that you kind of end up spending the same amount, because what you have to do is you'll have to, if you want to upgrade, you'll have to send in your current gen processor, and then they'll basically send you the new processor. But I'm not going to talk about all of it. You can watch the video, but
Yeah.
it's I was looking into it. I'm like, you know what? Other than the Trinov, I don't know of any other processor that you can upgrade up to 28 channels, because it
Oh,
comes with
wow.
16 natively, 16, and then you can buy expansion modules and go all the way up to 28.
Oh, okay.
So I'm
That
like, you know
that
what? I think I'm gonna do that, and just get it with because it comes with one expansion module comes with 4 stereo inputs. So I'm like, I would do that. Like I'd rather spend the money on that and then have 20 channels, and then because I've never had experience with Dirac, and I know it uses Dirac, and I believe it uses the full version.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, look for that video on Sunday because it's interesting, and I don't think a lot of people know that they're doing this.
Yeah, I think that their products are out there, but I've heard a couple of complaints, obviously, with their software.
Yeah, that's
Now,
the only thing that
I
kind of
mean,
scares me. I've heard it's
yeah, I've never
improved, but
owned one of it, so I don't want to speak definitively about it. But most of the people that I've seen either talk about it on or offline tend to just express that concern about the software side of it. And but I would like to think that if you're going to come up with a new product that is supposed to get up to that amount of channels, that you better go
yeah,
rework
yeah,
that software and get it out there and get it performing. But yeah, that's they used to have this the company that used to do that whole bring us your dead stuff, right?
yeah.
Where they're like,
They did that in
yeah,
they did that in November. I
I
think
think
they
it was
do it
during
every November.
Halloween, yeah, during Halloween or something like that. And
Yeah, and they give you a pretty good. They give you pretty good. And another thing is, it doesn't even have to work. So you can send them a receiver, like basically, bring us your data. Like it doesn't need to work, which is like wow. So,
oh,
I'm
okay.
thinking about if I don't get it before then, like doing that because I have a receiver that's not working. Then I mean, I would sell my current one, but yeah, that's the only thing that kind of scares me. And I've heard that it's improved. So, I mean, there's other things that I have that I still have bugs with. So it's kind of like, well, I think that's kind of like with everything. Um, but real quick, Sigmund Judge, thank you, man, for the super chat. He says, "Big thanks for your videos from a fellow Apple home theater owner. I'd still go with Trinoff for the Atmos visualizer alone, but that's me." Yeah. So a big thing with the Trinoff is that 3D mic and that 3D remapping technology. That's what I really want. But I'm like, you know what? Like, it would
Yeah,
probably take me a while to save up for it. Even then, I'm just like, man, that's just so much. Like that's all. That's the thing that I always go back to is just like, even if I have the money for this, that's just so much for one thing that it's like an internal struggle. It's
yeah,
like, do I really want to do this?
I feel like to get to the train of, I'll probably have to replace my projector, get a better project. I feel like there's so much other ways that I
Yeah,
can improve my home theater
exactly.
experience, then end up with the train of and feel like, okay, this matches. I look at it like having a Lamborghini parked outside, but where I live doesn't match the car I have packed outside.
Right.
I don't know if that actually makes any sense, but
I mean, it could.
for me
Somebody
to
could
go,
steal it.
yeah, for me to go to that level of end game processor, I feel like okay, maybe move to the JVC NX7 or something. Maybe then that way I can go from a 137 screen size to a 150 because the NX will probably be able to do that, and then I'll feel much more comfortable now going to get that
Right.
train of, and then I'm like, okay, now I got it.
Yeah. And so one thing that I do like about the Emotiva, obviously I haven't heard it. I've heard it sounds good, but Trinov uses, it's like a software based. So they use a version of Linux, which I didn't realize this until I started researching it here in the last couple of weeks. But the Emotiva RMC1 also uses a version of Linux. Now, I'm sure it's not as advanced as the Trinov, but the fact that they're using a version of Linux, and I'm sure they're still using a chip, but it sounds like they're doing more than like your Denon, your Marantz, your Anthem that's just solely based on a chip that's fixed.
Yeah.
Because you can't expand those. Like once you buy it, that's it. That's the channel count that you get. And so it sounds like the Emotiva is doing something somewhat similar to Trinov, where you're going to get better spatial separation, channel separation, and the fact that you can expand it. Like that's where I was like, okay, it's not a Trinov, but I don't know if there's anything else in between the RMC1 and the Trinov that's going to come close to a Trinov and be like just astronomically cheaper than the Trinov.
Yeah, I
So
mean, it's just software development, right? If you have a good idea how something works, if you're willing to put resources into it, you'll be able to at least come up with something that
Mm-hmm.
works close enough to it. I think it's just a question of resources. Are you willing to dedicate that level of, but it's software. At some point, someone will figure out what's going on in that device, and you're going to see it coming out all over the place, except if they're using some type of, proprietary top secret stuff that nobody will be able to, that is probably copyrighted or something. But yeah, as much
Yeah.
as I want it, I'm not, I don't even see it in this version of my home theater. I think I'll put it that way. I think if I go that way, it's going to be in a much more dedicated, better home theater with better speakers and, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Same. Cause I'm like, you know what? I would rather, same thing with you, like I would rather replace some other things first. Obviously I'm going to replace my projector to the LS12000B. And even that's like, some people might, boo boo on that, which I don't care, but it's an upgrade for me. And it's something that I would keep for years. It's laser. It's better than the one that I have now, but also like there's other stuff that I want to do to my theater that I feel like would get me closer to having my, my dream home theater. And the RMC1 is no slouch. Like everybody that I know, or everyone that I know of that has it, at least on YouTube, like they love it. And I was actually talking to Chris, that home theater dude, because he had one.
Dude. Yeah, I was just about to bring him up to see.
Yeah, and I asked him the other day. I was like, "Hey, man, when you had that, like, did you like it?" He was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I love that thing." He has a trend off now, but he's like, "Yeah, that thing is great." And I remember watching his videos when he was talking about it. So I was like, you know what? I would feel more comfortable going that route, because I could still have more channels. I would be able to expand it if I want to, which I probably won't ever expand it past 20. But the fact that it's expandable, the fact that it's running, a version of Linux and it's not completely tied to a chip, and the stuff that they're about to come out with on the new processors, I'm like, I feel like I could, if I would never be able to upgrade to a Trinov, like I would be happy with that as far as like a receiver where it's like, oh, well, now this is pretty much outdated after a couple years. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I love my Anthem MRX. Absolutely love that thing. If I had to keep it, I would keep it, but I just want to expand to more channels. And I want to, the only thing I dislike about the Anthem, and maybe there's ways that I can go in and tinker with it, but it does some things to the top end that I don't necessarily like as far as like the higher frequencies.
Yep.
And I need to still go in there and play around with it. But other than that, I love it. It still sounds great. Right now, I'm not even using the room correction just because I want to see how it sounds, without it. And right now it sounds amazing. But yeah, I would be happy with, like an RMC1 and then getting like an Epson LS12000B. And then, because I pretty much got all the speakers that I have right now. The in-ceiling stuff and the in-wall stuff is going to stay there for a while just because it's in the wall and I can't just replace it.
Just replace it. Yeah,
But,
like I want to replace my in-ceiling speakers because I went cheap when I
so did I.
them, and I regret it. So now it's like every time I'm trying to look at the measurements, but I think in-ceiling speakers are a lot easier to adjust because you either just need to, as long as you have to get something the same size or bigger so you can cut bigger holes and fit it.
Yeah.
You can't just go smaller.
Exactly.
But I do have the Denon 4700H,
Nice.
and that's the first thing I would give away in my home theater right now if I got the chance. That's the one thing that has to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has to go. I'm not feeling it.
Yeah, I was there when I had Onkyo. My first Dolby Atmos receiver was an Onkyo, and then I got another Onkyo, and the first Onkyo that I had, the receiver had Odyssey, which I've never really been a fan of. But then when I got the second Onkyo, they had that Acu EQ or something. I was like, man, what is it? It was terrible. Like the Atmos still sounded good just because it was better than not Atmos, but it was bad. And so then I went to a Pioneer Elite, and I have that in my living room. And
with the macaque. Which of the Pioneers did you get?
Yeah, so
I have
that
I have
was
the
right before.
503.
I have the
I have,
SC. It was the SC95.
oh, okay, I have
So
the LX 503.
okay, so that's after they got bought out by Onkyo
No, this is prior to.
prior. Okay, so mine was prior too, but they have the. I think obviously the MCACC is better than the AccuEQ, but I still don't like it.
Yeah.
And it sounds better than, you know, when I first got it, I was like, wow, this sounds better than the Onkyo. But when I got my Anthem, I was like, this blows the Pioneer.
Yeah,
Like
Pioneer. That
MCAC
I can't
is
even pronounce that. Then is it macaque or whatever?
I don't know.
I don't even know how they
I still don't know what
pronounce
it
it,
stands for.
but it works just like it sounds. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's why it's sitting in my office here. It's not even being used.
Yeah, I have it. It's in my living room. I'm actually trying to sell it right now so I can, you know, put that and save up towards the RMC one. But I just use it in my living room, and I only have 3 channels on it. Like the I don't like the interface on it, and I don't know how yours is, but I've never liked the Pioneer, and that's buggy. Like the interface on that is super, super buggy. Like there's been times where I would try to get to the on-screen menu,
Yeah.
and it just decides it won't show it on the screen. It's only on the display, and I'm like, I'd have to like reboot multiple times. It's trash.
Yeah, it's yeah. I don't even use it in the office. I disconnected it, but I never tried to sell it because I just did not think that there was a market value out there for it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's probably going to sit there. You know, but it looks like they've come out with a new one, so don't take any offense, Pioneer. You can send me the new one. I'll try it.
Right.
I'll
Yeah, and
review it.
I think the newer ones, at least like their top tier ones, I think those are, or one of them for sure is using direct because I believe China has one.
Yeah, the new ones that just came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not, and even the Onkyo, some of the one of the top of line Onkyos has direct on it. So
I just never liked it. So I'm not even, I don't know.
direct.
No,
Oh, the Onkyo?
Pioneer.
Or Pioneer. Yeah. Yeah. I would never buy another Pioneer again.
Yeah.
Like unless it was something where I was like, oh, let me just put this in my bedroom. But I would never. And again, no offense to anybody that has Pioneer. Like it's served me well when I was using it as my main receiver. But after I got something better, I was just like, eh. And it's probably better now that they're using direct, and I think that they're building them better. Because I know when they got bought out by Anki, I was like, here we go. Like, but I think they're a lot better now. But my next goal is just get a processor, like because I'm not even using the amps in mine anyway.
It's the software updates that kind of just bother me. They don't seem to push any updates.
I haven't gotten updates on that thing in years.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they just send it out once and just forget about it. I'm like,
yeah,
okay.
And that's another thing about having, you know, the companies that use chip based stuff is you can update the firmware, but the software like Trinov, they've been using the same chassis for like 10 plus years, but you can upgrade it. As soon as a new format comes out, they can just go into the software, put in whatever code that they need to and do it. And I believe the RMC one is like that too. They don't have RO3D, but from what I understand is if they want to update it, they can just update it to support new stuff, which like I said, I'm going to talk about that in my video on Sunday. But yeah, like I'll test some stuff. Like I'll test if someone wants to send me an Onkyo or Pioneer, but I would probably just never, you know, I probably would never buy one for like for me personally as my main, you know, central hub.
It's just the updates. I feel like they just updated for the first year and then they move on, but that may have changed. And also, I think the 503 I have is probably about 4 years old. So with the way technology goes now, it's like 2 years is almost old technology.
Yeah.
Especially for AVRs, you know. So I'm not expecting them to send any types of update to it, but I just feel like for the price point, and the new ones they have are pretty expensive. I can,
yeah.
If you check the price, they're quite expensive. They're way up there in the price point.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you better be good.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's good. It's good to see that there's, I feel like more now than ever, there's more competition and better products, and competition only breeds, better products. So, whether you have a Denon, a Marantz, a Onkyo, like Onkyo has come a long way. Like I said, I personally will never buy one. I've had 3 of them. And after I moved on to something else, I was like, I'm done with Onkyo. But they seem like they're making better products than they were before. And the fact that they're including Dirac is a huge step forward. So it's good to see that, they're improving their product. And one thing I will say about Onkyo is that they have always had like something for everyone at whatever price point that you could afford. They've always had something. I don't know if it's like that anymore, if they have that many, but that was one thing that I liked about Onkyo when I first was getting to home theater, is that, if you didn't have that much money, you could still get a, pretty good product. And so, yeah. But all right, I think that's gonna conclude it for this live stream. It's 8 o'clock, so I've got some other stuff to do, and I know you got family, so I don't want to keep you too long. But man, thank you to everybody. Yeah. Thank you for coming on. It was fun. We'll have to do this again at some point. Thank you for everybody that tuned in during the live stream, and thank you for, again, Sigmund Judge for that super chat. Really appreciate that. I'm glad that we can help. It's good to when you get comments where people are like, "Hey man, you help," even if it's just a little small comment, like knowing that you can help somebody else that's on their journey. Because I was the same guy. I mean, I still look for stuff. I still follow all the big channels, but knowing that you can help somebody, it feels rewarding. So thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. So I guess we'll go ahead and end it here. And everybody that's still on, that's still watching, thanks again. Have a good evening, and we'll see you next time. All right, Ike. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
All right, man.
Yeah, bye.